On the phone with me right now is Lisa Goich. Lisa is a fantastic friend. She's a huge animal activist. She is an author. She's a talk radio host. She's a former comic. We did the circuit together in Los Angeles. She's originally from Detroit. Cool, the Motor City, now living in Los Angeles. And, one other credit here, by the way, she manages the jazz and comedy categories for the Grammys. So how cool is that? I just love it, Lisa. But let's talk about your book today. You're so talented. Let's talk about your book. 14...
Oh, hi, Judy.
You just got all these fabulous credits that, it just takes 20 minutes to get through them. You're just that talented.
It makes me sound cooler than I actually am,
Oh,
actually.
you're very cool. Trust me. Please tell us who wrote the foreword for your book, by the way.
The foreword for my book is called 14 Days, and it's a memoir about my mom's final 14 days of life. And it took place in December of 2011, right around, Christmas time here. And it was, the foreword for the book was provided by Mitch Albom, New York Times multi best-selling author, and also a fellow, I should say, co-worker of mine. I worked on his radio show for many, many years, and he was kind enough to provide me with a very special foreword. I don't want to give too much of it away. People can read the book to find out, but a very special foreword for the book. So that was a blessing.
So tell us about 14 Days. A mother, a daughter, a 2-week goodbye.
It's like I said, it's a memoir about my mom's final 14 days of life. And it's not, one would think, oh, that's a very sad book. That's not the case. What ended up happening was I flew home for, a long weekend. My parents were still living in Detroit. I live in Los Angeles. I flew home for what was just supposed to be a long weekend, regular pre-Christmas visit. I haven't gone home at Christmas for a long time. I hate the Christmas rush. I hate all the travelers. I, just hate it. So normally what I would do is I would go back just before Christmas, and we'd have a little celebration, and then I'd go back to Los Angeles for actual Christmas Day and stuff. So I was just going home for what was supposed to be a long weekend, and while I was home on my first day back, my mom announced that she was going to be stopping her kidney dialysis, which she had just started about, she had had 11 visits, so it was, probably about a month prior. And stopping that would mean that within a couple of weeks she would die. So it was all quite by surprise and shocking and nothing we had expected. So we brought her home, we started hospice, and for 2 weeks we had a big party, basically, is what it turned into. We had a lot of celebrating and all kinds of stuff, and it just became a really good thing. So, we were quite lucky to have that time with her, because it wasn't something that a lot of people get, and we were just happy that it happened. So.
Now, have you had feedback from people who say this book has been very therapeutic, very healing for them? I would think so.
Yeah, I have had a lot of letters, and it's funny because they were, a lot of strangers too have been writing me, saying that they picked this book up or somebody had referred it to them, and they, wrote back to me saying that, yes, either they went through this themselves, they were currently going through something like this themselves, and it was really helpful to them. I try to infuse a lot of humor in the book. My mom was a humorous person. I try not to make it so heavy, so as that you're, wanting to just go, cry in a room the entire book. I don't want this. That doesn't make for a good book. So I really tried to just make it be like, hey, you're not alone. This is what other people go through as well. And perhaps some of the things that we did during this 2-week period can be beneficial to you too. And I've been getting a lot of feedback saying that it has helped people. So that's a good thing.
What were some of the key moments in the book that really resonates with readers?
Some of the key moments, I would say, well, a lot of the stuff, the caregiving part of it has been something that resonated a lot with people. So many people these days, especially my age, our age, who have elderly parents, or, being thrust into this caregiving role, which is a complete reversal of what we're used to, right? Because our parents take care of us.
Absolutely.
And now it's time for us to take care of our parents. And, it's a role that sometimes the parents aren't so comfortable with because they're the ones who are used to giving all the care. And when it comes time for us to have to care for them, it's a little clumsy, at the beginning. That's the part that seems to have resonated with a lot of people. I only had to do this for 2 weeks, so I'm by no means an expert or a hero. There are some people who live with, Alzheimer's with their parents, for instance, who go through this for years. And, I have one of my best friends is going through this with her mother right now, and it's something, she's got to be with her 24/7 and has no respite, has no help. It's really a challenge. And even the little bit that I had to do it, I would say that's what's resonated with people the most in the book. And then the other things are, kind of the final goodbye, the moment of the final goodbye. That's something that everybody goes through. And if you're blessed to be with somebody at that moment, I think it's really, really special.
Well, I mean, what really stands out for me with the book is that I think there's a lot of people that, because they're in that state of, I don't know what to do, a lot of time is spent trying to figure out what to do. And here you have something that says, look, I had 14 days and I made the most of those 14 days. And at least it gives some sort of framework, some architecture, an example that may not be the same for everybody involved, but it gives you an idea. Okay, well, I don't know what to do exactly, but what did Lisa do? And just the great questions that you asked your mom, the questions, the conversations that you had. And, I just think it's a phenomenal idea. Did you have it in mind that you were going to, were you sort of writing the book as you were having these conversations, or did that happen afterwards?
No, it happened afterwards. I started writing the book during the process. We started writing it, basically it was Facebook posts. That's how it started. Mm-hmm. I never, when I was writing those Facebook posts, never did I think those were going to turn into a book. But I was mostly writing them so that family and friends of my mom's, who I couldn't write individually at that time, but had been reaching out to us asking, how is she? It seemed to be a nice, quick way to be able to get the news out and to get the daily, happenings out without having to write back to each person individually, which was really hard at that time because it was going on. So they were little Facebook posts. I would try to make them a little more poetic than just, hey, she's okay today or whatever. I tried to make them a little special and poetic. And my mom really loved hearing the comments that were coming in. That's something that was foreign to her. She wasn't a Facebooker, or she knew nothing of social media. So I would post a picture or I would post a little story, and 1 second later we're getting comments from people, and I would start reading them to my mom, and she just thought that was like the cat's pajamas. She was like, that is so nice. Everybody's writing to me, and oh my gosh, I feel so special. So I increased them so that my mom could participate. I would send more things out, and be a little, every time I'd write something, she'd be, did they write back yet? Did they write back yet? So so I wrote several over those 14 days. And it wasn't until about a year later somebody said, you should take those posts and, write a book from them. And I'm like, oh, I don't think that those could possibly become a book. So I took them. I went back into Facebook a year prior, gathered as many as I could find that still existed, laid them out in sort of an outline form, and thought, you know what, this might work. So that's kind of how the book was born. And my dad keeps an extremely detailed journal that he writes in every single day, and that was used to fill in the holes. So that became the book. That and memories. There's a lot of flashbacks and past memory things in the book too. So I just filled in holes with those.
Do you have more people that are caregivers that are buying the book, or do you have more people that are actual parents or grandparents that are reading the book? What's sort of the demo?
It's mostly people that are of the caregiving, the children of the parent stage seems to be the most people I'm getting feedback from. But this morning I just received an email on my website from a woman who was 80, and she was caring for her husband. So, I think it probably varies. There's a lot of different people with a lot of different situations. But for the most part, I think it's children with parents.
Well, I think you hit on something really important, and I don't think it was intentional for you at the time. But, not only does this become closure for you, the individual that's involved with the parent, but you become this pipeline, especially when we have such amazing social media tools like Facebook, and hell, if we have to go old school and use the telephone. But it gives an opportunity not only for your mom's friends, but as well for your mom to have that closure. And too many times we get, I've certainly seen cases where it's just the one person, they get isolated with that parent, but there's so many other people that, why hear all of those great things at the funeral when that person's like, hello, I'm in the room. Like I would love to be able to have this conversation. And I think that's a fantastic gift that you're giving people.
Well, that's true too. And there's two parts of that I think are important. One, yes, that is true. But to do that and to tell these people the wonderful things about them while they're still living, you have to be able to acknowledge the death. Mm-hmm. Or the impending death, mm-hmm. which a lot of people don't acknowledge.
Right.
I've had friends in both situations where they, say their spouse was dying and it was never talked about. That person was still alive. Therefore, that person never had the chance to say, hey, I'm dying and I want to say goodbye to people, or I'm dying and this is what I need to talk about. This is what I'm afraid of right now. Mm-hmm. With my mom, it was clear. She said, hey, I'm going to go. I'm dying. Which opened it up for us to be able to say, okay, we can say out loud, you are dying, and this is what we think about you, and this is what we want to say to you before you go, and this is what we want to ask you. We use that to ask a lot of questions about her life, things I wanted to make sure I knew, and recipes and stuff, and all those things that are in my case, in a mom's head, that once she's gone, there goes all the information. But I really think that acknowledging death helps everybody. I think it helps the family members that are still living, and I really think it helps the person who's dying. I mean, they are dying. That's no secret. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we try to pussyfoot around it and not bring up, the big elephant in the room, whatever. Right. But it happens, and I think for them to be able to talk about their journey and what's happening to them and how they're feeling, I think is really important too. And on the flip side of that, a very close friend and neighbor of ours just died last night. And it was fairly sudden. She had cancer, but it was fairly sudden in that she just found out about it right before Thanksgiving, at which point it had already taken over her entire body. So it was only about 2.5 weeks from the time she found out until, she died, which was crazy. And we're still a little shocked by it all. And she wasn't going to tell anybody. And in fact, in those final 2 weeks, she didn't want anybody to know. Another neighbor told me, which allowed me the opportunity to be able to go over to her house and say goodbye and say wonderful things. But she didn't want anybody to know. And what I wanted to tell her was, hey, you need to let people know, and you need to let people come over and say goodbye, or at least email you or say something. She wasn't answering emails. She just didn't want to even look.
Right.
And I realized that that's her personal choice. Mm-hmm. And, everybody's different when they go through these things. But I learned something very important from that, which was people on the other side need their closure too. They need to say goodbye. She didn't allow a lot of people to even talk to her in those final days. And I think for some of her friends, I'm sure that they're hurt by that. Mm-hmm. They really didn't get that moment to say their goodbyes. And frankly, I think it helps the person who's dying to be able to see their friends on the way out. I don't know. That's my personal choice. People may not want that.
I know I certainly would. Would want to get an opportunity. The author is Lisa Goich. The book is 14 Days, A Mother, a Daughter, a 2-Week Goodbye. And it's such an important topic, but comics are messengers. Comedy is used in so many ways, and Lisa, being a former comedian, now she does so many other things, but that humor is sprinkled throughout this book. So as Lisa was saying, it's not the heavy duty cry fest. There's definitely sad moments, but I think your gift of humor is so important, especially with this topic, this taboo topic of death. And I'm so happy for your success. Lisa, if folks want to get the book, can I have your website? Can you tell us where we can get the book?
Yeah, the website for the book is 1414, the numerals, 14daysamemoir.com, 14daysamemoir.com. And the book is available, there's links for the book on the website itself, but it's available wherever books are sold, Amazon.com, and I know it's on Amazon Canada as well, BarnesandNoble.com, Books A Million, and I have two independent booksellers in the Detroit area. One's in Ann Arbor, one's in Detroit, who are selling the book for me, who I like to support. So, but anywhere books are sold, you can order it.
All right. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being a messenger of such an important message, and thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you, Judy. Always nice to talk to you. We need to do it more often, darn it.